just a short talk with you, 101B faithfuls, about how literature and the study of literature, and in our case short stories, especially reflects the times in which those stories were written and the ideas that were popular and powerful at the time and remain in many ways powerful in today's living. So, I mean, you had a couple of terms that were extremely important during the time period in which stories like To Build a Fire or The Storm were written. And one is realism, that almost photographic nature of trying to capture what is really there. And it may be especially grim, it may be especially difficult, a truth that maybe we'd rather not confront. But the realists were after that kind of realism in the sense of let's go into the inner cities, let's go into the slums, let's capture some of the more difficult to cope with types of realities that are out there. Naturalists, some are going to say, and this is, by the way, this is a really skimpy version of this. We study this much more in depth, but there's realism with the notion that in many ways our fate is inescapable. The type of life we lead has a great deal to do with a kind of deterministic environmental influence that we cannot just simply overcome. The great French writer Émile Zola captured this in the French version of it, and we have Frank Norris in American literature. We even have hints of this in Jack London's writings. If you consider To Build a Fire, there's a certain amount of inescapable fate that cannot be avoided. Once that snow falls on that fire from the tree, it is virtually inevitable what's going to happen to the man, the protagonist in the story. So what I want you to be aware of is the power of these ideas to influence not only the stories and the times in which they were written, but us, because we still are very much enthralled and walk on the very ground that these ideas generated. Realism was in many ways a reaction to Romanticism, this idea that we can idealize nature, we can idealize people. We have Romanticist paintings which idealize the countryside, poetry which oftentimes idealizes peasants, idealizes the beauty of nature and the inspiration of nature. This is a truth. So is realism, so is existentialism, impressionism, naturalism, all these isms. So I want you to understand that you can write and understand and deal with many of these very powerful ideas if you're interested in history, if you're interested in philosophy, if you're interested in what shapes us and makes us the type of people that we are. Then you find this through so many of these stories. What kind of an age are we in now? Well, I think in some ways it's a pretty dark age because it parallels this rather dark age idea that science doesn't really have validity, that we can rely on some sort of rather bizarre blind faith to guide us, which really seems the opposite of an enlightened way of looking at our lives and the world around us. In any case, I'm going to stop it there. It's just a little introduction. Think about these stories. Oh my gosh, think about the storm and how inexorable the outcome seems to be once the storm itself seems to almost electrically charged influence this brief torrid affair. All right, enough said. More to say on that topic a little bit later. Just thought I'd run that by you. Be enthused. Be absolutely swept up in the power of these ideas because they do influence us still today in movies. We just had the Academy Awards, in literature, and in our own views, in our own philosophies, in our own reactions. All right. See you later.